So you want to become a writer. Well, then you have to become a writer. Becoming a writer should ask, what kind of writer do you want to be? What do you want to write about? While it may seem natural to write the same as your favorite authors, that may hurt your originality. Genres are wide open. If you love to read fantasy, is it easy for you to imagine your own fantasies? Or if you start, does it start to sound like just your favorite author's writing? It may be worth challenging yourself in something totally unknown so that you are forced to use your imagination. As a writer, you are the subject, meaning what you believe, how you think, who you like and dislike will be in your project, like it or not. A very good writer, it is hard to know which characters have their sympathies more and which ones that they don't sympathize with. This will lead to your first question. What am I going to write about? The subject. Other than yourself, in many stories, the subject is life and death. The story starts with either life or death. The death of someone affects all characters, and in some, it affects particularly your main characters. In stories, a death can be before any action takes place. In Hamlet, everyone has moved on from the death of the king, except Hamlet. There has been the funeral. There has been a new king crowned. If Hamlet accepted this, the story would be over. There would be no story. And that's something you have to think about with when you're writing. Are you just writing yourself into a wall where there's nowhere this story is going to go? Well, that's why your main character is so important. From this singular figure, Hamlet, and his unwillingness to go along or forget, all the drama of this play unfolds. I used this in my novella, The Brass Web. Oh, you haven't read it? Well, now, like I was saying in Hamlet, oh, you never read Hamlet. Okay, so in The Lion King, we, the audience, are given special information. We know the villain's plan. We see him carry it out. We know no one else knows. We see that it works. We follow Simba, Hamlet, and we want to tell him what's happened. But the writer must find a way for their characters to find things out for themselves. You also want your readers to find things out for themselves. How? By reading your story. As the story progresses, something must be revealed. And a good way is slowly, and that's the foreshadowing. It's like, oh, yeah, he mentioned that in the beginning, and now we see it. Little by little, you give the information to your readers, depending on the length of what you're writing. Are you writing a short story? Well, then it has to be pretty succinct. If you're writing a big novel, well, that can be just piece by piece finding the information. Now let's talk more about the main character. Your main character must affect the world you create. Bad stories are when the world is affecting your characters so much they have no agency. The world has effects. It's cold, it's hot, it's under the sea. It's an unjust world. It's a world where certain people cannot have the same freedoms as other people. And so if your character isn't allowed to have the same freedoms, what can they do? Or if your character does have those freedoms and it sees the unjustness towards other people, what are they going to do? If they just are totally affected by their world, they're going to do nothing. Your characters will be consumed by their world, and it won't be long before it's crap. So, like I said, your character, your main character, might live in a completely unjust world where they are a target. An improvement on that would be your main character makes themselves the target by contradicting the norm, contradicting the law, such as our friend Hamlet. They say he is unnatural to mourn his father in the way that he does because it's a conformity problem. And if you don't conform, well, eventually people are going to call you insane. But Hamlet is all right with being insane. Something is so wrong to Hamlet that he will not accept the way things are. And it's soon revealed to him that his intuition is right. In your world, there are reactions to actions. Even before the start of your story, there's a natural order of things that must have occurred. If you have a young boy or a girl, it is supposed that they have parents. If their parents are not in the story, we assume perhaps there was a tragedy or perhaps they are orphaned. But what is the reason? If you can't explain this, there's holes. Think of the things about your own life so that your character is a complete person. And that's not to say you have to give them a birthday, but maybe you do. And maybe they have a social security card. Maybe how are they part of their community? How are they part of their larger world? How is their community part of the larger world? Say your main character is married. How'd they meet their partner? When? It doesn't have to take up the whole first chapter explaining every detail. You can come in and all these things are present, but eventually they have to be revealed. We cannot just simply take for granted everything. Like, we can't think, well, our readers, of course, they're going to suppose that. You're the one writing the story. You're the one who is supposed to give these details. The information should be there. Say your character has a best friend. How long have they been best friends? Do they have shared friends? Does this friend know their spouse? Does this friend know the main character's parents? Do they go that far back? How well do they know the main character? If they don't know them any better than the reader, then how are they even their best friend? What do they know about each other? What do they have in common and what don't they have in common? Why do they stay friends? I like plays as a form of storytelling because the characters are listed and they have to talk about each other in order to advance the story. In King Lear, which we are looking at right now, The opening line is so brilliant, and it's just one sentence. Kent, I thought the king had more affected the Duke of Albany than Cornwall. In this sentence, 5 characters are introduced. Kent, the one speaking, Gloucester, the one who is spoken to, then the king, Duke of Cornwall, Duke of Albany, the 3 who are spoken about. All in one sentence, we're given 5 characters. The king has affections for 2 dukes, and we wonder immediately from Kent why one would be more than the other. Gloucester doesn't answer this. Instead, he basically says, I think he likes them the same. And it's basically, they have been divided evenly. But so that brings us back. Well, why does Kent think he thinks it's been switched? If he says, well, I thought the king had more affected the Duke of Albany than Cornwall. Now it seems as though Cornwall is brought up more, is more affected, or he has more affections of the king. But as Gloucester says, well, that's not so. So it's a little bit misleading in the beginning, but it's going to be soon brought up, because in the very first act, King Lear divides the kingdom, and that's where the whole play truly begins. Now, this is just a beginning of a many-part series about writing, and I hope you'll join me for each one. Becoming a writer is a noble thing to do. Everyone who does it doesn't do it well. So you can be a person who does it extremely well. You can rise above. There's a sort of mediocrity in every single, whether it's sports, business, anything. Choosing to be a writer, you don't have to choose mediocrity. You can grow and grow and grow. It's a wonderful world when you start creating your own stories.